The belief that we needed herbicides, weed killers, as part of our food system was a falsehood. And so that's really good news. We don't need weed killers to grow food. We did not have weed killers up until the 1950s, and they weren't necessary because the plants were robust in the world. We undermined soil health with the Dust Bowl, the 1920s, 30s, 40s. We undermined the health of the soils globally by over-tilling, over-disking the land, and by breaking all of those mycelial networks, breaking all the root systems over and over and over again. We destroyed nutrient delivery and nutrient cooperation and creation within soil systems, and therefore plants became weak. With the Green Revolution, we figured out if we just poured enough nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK fertilizer, from fossil fuels, so we would take oil out of the ground, turn it into NPK fertilizer, pour it on dead dirt, and plants would suddenly grow better. Well, that convinced us we had cracked the code on life of like, oh, if there's enough NPK, then the plants will just be better, and we don't have to worry about changing our behavior otherwise. So we started pouring in NPK fertilizers, and we got green crops, and they were growing faster than they'd ever grown because we were basically putting the fuel on the fire, or the accelerant of biology and light energy in there, but we weren't providing the nutrients. We were just pouring gasoline on the fire, but we weren't giving it more wood, And so there was no more carbon left in the soil systems by the 1970s and 80s. And so by forcing the fire to burn without extra wood, we had basically burned everything to ash inside the cell. The wood is a carbon source for a fire. It's long-chain carbons, glucose, carbohydrates, fatty acids, oils, etc. And so the chunk of wood is, for the fire is the same thing as carbon, nutrients, and all of that for a soil system, or it's the same thing as a mushroom or a steak in my belly. Lots of potential energy caught up in fats and carbohydrate structures and all of this. And so we depleted the fire system by the 1980s. And before this, really by the 1960s, plants were starting to grow at fast rates with weak immune systems. They didn't have nutrient density. And with a weak immune system, plants become very vulnerable to invasive, competition with weeds. Weeds inherently are looking to help improve biodiversity. Our monoculture cropping of corn and soybean and potatoes and everything else we were monocropping in the 1950s was undermining that biologic rule of biodiversity, and our soils were lacking nutrients. And so the only option for nature at that point is to attack. You need more life, more diversity in there. So you get insects to come and wipe out monoculture. You get insects to come wipe out any plant that has a weakened immune system. And then you get weeds coming in to try to create the nutrient diversity, biodiversity necessary for any square meter of soil. And then we blamed the insects and we blamed the weeds as if they were the problem, when in fact they were nature's answer to our breaking of the biologic code of diversity. And so we started spraying the weeds with herbicides. And so my encouragement to humanity is we never needed these chemicals until we broke the rules of biology. We can stop breaking the rules of biology, and we can start to foster biodiversity in every meter of soil. And for you guys listening, that has to start with you. That has to start in your home. How are you going to start creating more diversity in your living room? You need plants in there. You need some plants living in there. You need some moss growing in there. You need to start getting life back in there. And the second you step out of your home, where's your diversity at? Is there a pot growing a tomato on the patio or on the front stoop? Is there, an opportunity to tear up all that Kentucky bluegrass and start planting a food forest in your front yard, in your backyard? How are you going to start playing the rule of life, playing the game of life, which is biodiversification at every opportunity? And when you start to play that game, the role for herbicides and insecticides and pesticides all go away, because the plants that are now in that biologic diversity are so robust, there's no threat to them. The insects don't come by. There's no need for invasive weeds anymore because you've already created the biodiversity there. So my great encouragement to everybody, homeowner to farmer to government agent, is that there is an easy way to step back into right relationship with nature. To be in right relationship to nature as a species that's multicellular and intelligent, we must be the best pollinators. We must be the best, co-creators with the potential of life to push for biodiversity at every single moment. And if we wake up wondering what we can birth today, if we wake up wondering what kind of beauty can we bring in through diversification of our environment today, we're going to end up with a completely different civilization, totally different societal expression of humanity, totally different personal expression of my spirituality, my physicality, my emotionality, if I wake up every morning wondering what I can birth today. Most of us are trained steadily to question, what do I need to kill today instead? And as a doctor, that looks like antibiotics, antidepressants, anti-anxiety, anti-everything. And so that's unfortunately what the reductionist approach to the pharmaceutical industry is. Well, we need to kill the insects in the farm. We need to kill the weeds. Then we now have weak plants, weak humans eating those plants, and the humans now have invasive weeds that we call microbes or invasive bacteria, and so we need antibiotics over there. And oh my gosh, we need more antibiotics on the farm because there's now fungus killing our orchards and blah, blah, blah. And so from farmer to physician to consumer, we're really trained into what can we kill today attitude. And for that, we're becoming more and more isolated, more and more lonely as a species, more and more lonesome as a biology, and therefore we're expressing cancer at this insane rate. And on our way to cancer, we get obesity first, then diabetes, then autoimmunity, then I'd say bone marrow dysfunction next, and then after that, you end up with deeper dysfunctions in regards to chronic pain syndromes, degenerative neurologic conditions, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementias, movement disorders, chronic pain syndrome, chronic regional pain syndromes. Like all of this didn't exist in 1992 when I started, my medical training. It all happened 1990s, 2000s. And so we have this excitement for me, I think, of right relationship with nature, rebirthing the biodiversity around us, rebirthing biodiversity at the cellular level. And that's been our joy at the lab, is to show that this actually can be proven in the scientific world, that if you take the diversity of ancient soil systems not touched by human hands, so we go back about 60 million years ago to the kind of the richest soil deposits that Earth has provided us, and we take extracts of that and add that back to human cells that have been damaged by glyphosate, and what you immediately see is healing. And so nature is the antidote to humanity's wounds. And I'm fascinated by that grace. I'm fascinated by that beauty of her message, which is you cannot actually make a mistake too big for me. That's nature's little sweet message every day is, oh, you screw up? No problem, I'm bigger. And that's ultimately what a mother does. And the mother never freaks out at a kid for not eating, their vegetables today because, frustrating as heck, you want to eat your broccoli, but you know what? Tomorrow you're going to grow up and you're going to start eating broccoli. And so nature is waiting for us to start eating the broccoli, ultimately. Nature is waiting for us to get past our infantile tantrums of, well, I want this, I deserve that, I do that, blah, blah, and just start to receive her